Good morning. Good morning. It's about 10 a.m. on a Friday. I'm in a place known as Battleground, Indiana, just north of Lafayette and West Lafayette, home of Purdue University. I'm about to hike a thing called the Wabash Heritage Trail. It is a 13, and I sound skeptical, but 13-mile long trail. Not a lot of elevation change, but dirt, pavement, mulch, wood chips, bunch of different things. The reason I'm skeptical is there's a guide that says it's 11.8 and then they're going to expand it, and then there's another one that says 12.8, one says 13, one says 13.8 miles. Anyway, it's like 13 miles. It starts up here in a Battleground. It'll end at Fort Wiatnon, probably pronouncing that wrong. It's going to follow the Wabash River. I'm starting here. You can see behind me, that's the nature center, Wabashika. I don't have a trail map. That nature center is supposed to open at 10. It is 10:30. No one's here yet. Not a big deal. Who cares? The important thing about this hike is this is my final tune-up hike, because next week, literally a week from today, I am starting the Appalachian Trail and doing a through hike of that. So I have almost all of my gear with me. I have my Oboz Sawtooth 2 shoes. I have my sock liners, my new socks. I'm wearing the shirt I'm going to wear on the AT. I'm wearing the fleece I'm going to wear on the AT. Not a fantastic fleece, but I'll be fine with it. I've got my trekking poles. I've got my backpack. The only thing I don't really have is my sleep system. So instead of all of that, I do have 20 pounds of actual weight packed in my backpack. So I have 20 pounds of literal weights, like free weights, wrapped in towels. I have a whole bunch of water because it's a long hike. I didn't bring my Sawyer squeeze or anything. It does go through the middle of the city at one point, so if I actually need anything, I can just stop there. But looking forward to going on this hike, so come along, take a hike with me. As you can see, the trail does not loop. Also, no bikes. So this right here is the first portion of the trail. Sorry about the teeny tiny little dirts and bugs, but it basically follows Burnett Creek most of the way to the Wabash River, crosses the Wabash River, goes down to downtown, crosses a footbridge, and the rest of it is not on here, but it basically follows the Wabash River on the other side until you get to Fort Wiatnon? Wiatnon, I'll go with Wiatnon. So that's the trail. That's the first 6.5 miles or so. About a mile in at this point, maybe a little more. So far the trail's been all mud and sand. I'm actually seeing the first footprints that aren't mine. Since I started the trail, appears to be a dog and a guy walking said dog. I've already gone over what I would consider one of the sketchiest parts of the trail, which is a raised plank footbridge over a small marshy area, because it was slick with mold, sorry, not mold, moss and water, and the steps were sloped away from you down and there was no handrail. So here I am, like 350 pounds of everything, backpack, me, hoping I don't step and just have my feet go flying out from under me. But so far it's mostly wooded. I am noticing you can't really escape the sounds of the city. I know this is gonna go through actual Lafayette downtown, as well as under a couple of overpasses and past some highways, but it's the most naturey trail I can get around here that's of any length, so I'm pretty happy about it. So I'm just gonna keep heading on until I cross the probably Burnett Creek in about a mile. So I'm assuming that noise is overpowering me. That's the highway. But there's a cool sign right here that I just got to while crossing these little lily pad-like steps. And that's this one. I'm not sure if it's visible on the camera, so I'll just read it. For you who have chosen to hike to this point, the last 30 to 45 minutes have been quite a change from today's standards of living. You have walked where the forefathers of our country walked and have gotten a glimpse of our still existing natural resources. How much of this would you have experienced if your last 30 to 45 minutes were spent overhead traveling at 65 miles per hour? I don't know. It's very inspiring, but maybe not on this trail. because like I said, you can almost constantly hear the roar of traffic. But I think about that quote, and I think about the Appalachian Trail, and that's one of the reasons I'm doing it. Get away from all this. It's gonna be great. I've made it about 3 miles in, give or take. I've passed a banquet hall. I've gone under the first overpass. In about 2.5 miles, I get to cross a footbridge over the Wabash River. I'm actually looking forward to that. I think that's one of the neater things. There's a couple spots on the Appalachian Trail where it does that too, where you get to cross just a giant footbridge, and I think those are cool. So, if you can see behind me there on the ground, the trail's been really muddy for this section. I almost lost my footing completely at one point, but it's just, instead of the sandiness and the wood chips of the first part, it's been mostly mud at this point. We'll see how it is ahead. Once I get past the Wabash, I'm pretty sure it's paved for about 4 miles. This is the first of, I think, 3 river crossings on a bridge. Like I said, I think river crossings on bridges are cool. This one is closed down to motorized traffic. I did have a sign that it might be unsafe in high water, but it appears to be a solid 30-40 feet off the I don't know, sea level, the river. I just came from behind those houses. That's where the river goes, but this is cool. I'm getting toward the middle. About 3.5 miles into the hike now. I'm having a small issue with my right heel. It's rubbing raw against the back of the shoe. These are brand new shoes, so I'm trying to break them in. So I'm hoping this is just a breaking in thing and it'll be fine, but it has rubbed my heel pretty raw so far. I tried to tighten it so that it moves less. That didn't really work. I tried to loosen it so it wouldn't press up against it. That didn't work. So I'm gonna have to look into that tonight or later on the trail if it gets too bad. So coming from the north, about a half mile from the US 52 bridge, this is kind of neat, or at least it's neat to me. The trail goes between 2 old, very old, sunk in the mud cars. Very old. You can see how buried they are. Back where I just came from, back that way, was a very muddy area that clearly gets flooded a lot. They had one of the no biking signs. It's vertical, so it basically said no BIK because the bottom portion was completely covered in mud. So these are neat. Look at that. You can, wow. Yeah, it's the hood of the car. Those have been there, gotta be a long time. I wonder whose they used to be and how they got there. But I can see the bridge in front of me. So I'm gonna be there. I think it was 0.4 miles the last sign I saw, but like I said, I can see it. So there's a little creek that feeds into the Wabash, and it has a bridge. It's even announced on the map. This is a bridge. Quality stuff. Talk to you on the other side. It's a bit muddy out there. Just came through that. That's loud. Did the best I could. Shoes are a bit muddy anyway. And they say a pound on your shoes is like 5 pounds on your back. And this is the 4th or 5th huge mud section I've had to go through. That one's actually pretty short, just deeper. Turns out I was next to a train station. That's why it was so loud all of a sudden. And that big mud section I just walked through, here's the other end of it. So I guess that trail was closed, but there was no sign on the other side, so I just walked through it. Well, I'm through. Tally-ho. Just crossed the bridge over the Wabash. There was a bunch of people on it. I didn't really want to talk and film while I was walking across it. There's a nice fountain. So I'm now, I believe, officially in West Lafayette. The Main Street Bridge. The city of Lafayette was platted in 1825, and it would be 11 years before the Main Street Bridge linked Lafayette with the community that would later become West Lafayette. So there you go. So I'm heading back onto the Wabash Trail on the other side of the river. I'm about 4 hours into the hike. I started at 10:30 this morning. Hey, welcome to West Lafayette. Thank you. Nice little welcome to West Lafayette sign. The final stop, like I mentioned at the beginning, is Fort Wiatnad. Wiatnan? I think it's Wiatnan. I'm gonna keep pronouncing it wrong this entire time till I get there. Maybe I can ask someone and they'll say it correctly. But anyway, I digress. So I'm hiking along paved trail still. Hopefully I'm done with the mud. That mud's been awful. But it should only take me maybe another hour and a half to 2 hours to get there, depending on trail conditions and if I feel like taking another break. My feet have been fine ever since I fixed my shoes, so that's been great. Tightening up the right shoe has been fine. There's still a twinge of pain just from it being tight on where it already rubbed raw, but there's been no additional rubbing pain. And the pain's actually gone down drastically, so that's all I could hope for. So I'm not sure if there's anything else interesting from here to there until I get to the actual fort, but we'll see. I'm at the end of the trail. I'm in Fort Wiatnad. I'm gonna do a hypercut at the end of this video of every time I've said that word and not been correctly. Wiatnan. I've been told it's correct by someone off camera. So you can see the end right there. Mild confession, I had to skip a chunk of it because there just gets several inlets and cricks and helicopters overhead making noise right now, but you can't go past them. I jumped over one, I fell down a mud bank on another one, and then the last one I was trying to hike all the way down and around the inlet, but that was gonna get irksome. So I hiked about 12 miles of the 13-mile trail and then just drove to the end so I could at least get to the end of it to see what the other side looks like. It's early April. It's probably just muddy and flooded because spring. So that is a reconstruction of the fort, reconstructed about 100 years ago in 1913, question mark? I'm sure I could go look at the sign, but. So it's been a great hike. I'm kidding. That was kind of an awful hike. I don't think I'd ever do that hike again. Yeah, but it was worth it. It's a good AT prep hike. Everything worked out. I fixed my shoe issue. This new GoPro 7 is doing pretty great. Everything worked out fine. So with all that being said, thanks for taking that hike with me.